Cool. So I guess we can just start from the top. All right, just daily H4. All right, pretty much. Since I stopped doing Zooms, which was like around, I guess, late December-ish, early December-ish, right? Not much has happened, right? Pretty much this is what's happened the entire time. Expected, not too worried about it. Should see a lot more clarity for the most part, even if we do see any type of correction. I don't want to see any deep correction. It doesn't make sense to me from a technical perspective unless we take important levels of structure out. Okay, so just breaking it down from here, right? Our last low here, all right, or even this low here, right? I'm just gonna start from here. Anything before this isn't too relevant to me now, right? So just marking out my structure on this time frame. Okay, so if we acknowledge where we currently are in structure, we are still bearish. Okay, and once we start digging deeper, we can go to M30. Right, this is the initial, the initial pullback or the initial break of structure that began the overall bearish correction. Right, so we see this clearly here, our break of structure, right, coming back into a potential candle of interest. Right, then gave a higher high, right, induced, right, sellers there, but from an intraday perspective, you are now bullish, right? So this is only a trap, right, to then continue higher. Okay, so immediately after that, right now, this is the first time we're seeing legitimate, well, here's one, right, legitimate structure breaks, right? First one being here, second one being here, right? So it's pretty concerning because although the intraday here is technically bullish, right, if we pretty much isolate this range here, make this a different color, right, if we isolate this range, right, although this intraday is still essentially bearish, bullish, I'm sorry, the overall is still bearish, right? So I don't want to consider this a turbulence point, right, but I do see it as a range that induced, a reversal here, right? So it gets pretty interesting because this can easily start to roll over, and let me tell you why. Right, because although, right, this is still bullish, right, if we're marking out, let's see what color, do dark blue, right, this is the initial structure break here, right, the second structure break here, very overextended, right, which causes the reaction to the upside, right, and then now we're in essentially another range. Right, so hold on 1 second, guys, hold on, I'm sorry. All right, sorry about that. Cool. So pretty much coming back into this range, right? If we're zooming into this range, right, we're seeing, right, this overextended push, right, leading to a scalping structure break here, but the structure is still intact, right? So I could very well see a type of reversal if we break into here, give a pullback, and then go from there, right? You could kind of say it's a scam, right? But I don't want to say that because, for one, I can't read the volume here. Two, it's not very structured, right? So it's at a very interesting point even right now, even though we're in Asian session, right? I want to see how we react. So although we have essentially a sign of unwillingness here, the only way for this unwillingness to be valid is if this candle breaks, right? Because this candle could very well cause a reaction to then continue higher, right? And then that kills this entire bearish leg down, right? Because we'll probably come to challenge these highs and will now be full on bullish here, and our next target from an intraday perspective would be the previous high. So it gets pretty interesting, honestly. It's not something I'm trading right now. Like I said, I'm not trading right now. Pretty much waiting for clarity, and I want to finish the course. But right, this is a very good study for you to watch live, right? Because this, to me, is starting to give initial signs of bearishness, right? But it won't matter unless, you know, we give those SOWs, those breaks of structure here and here. Okay, so from there we can now reference EURUSD. Same pretty much overall view. Personally, this still looks bearish to me. One, right, from a swing perspective, right, our red squares here, we've had a pretty much a major break of structure here, right? So once I dive into that range there, right, we now have these legs inside of there, right, and a potential continuation labeled as pending because this has not broken structure yet, so this is not a valid high yet, or lower high. So something that's alerting, right? There's two different ways to look at this. All right, you could see this as a type of rejection, a type of mitigation, right? That then inclines price to try to move higher, but there's no sign, or essentially, other than a hunch, right? There's nothing telling me that this should be bullish, right? Because for the most part, even if we give any type of bullish reaction, right? Let's say we come back even to this candle or into this wick there. If we were to come back up here, right, the only reasonable direction is still lower because our intraday is bearish. We just had one major structure break, right? And you guys know that I'm not really comfortable with trying to sell EURUSD right now. So it's, you know, like I said, that's where I'd rather just stay away. By all means, this is a very, very good intraday trade if you get the reaction, right? Because if you get the reaction, right, you now have a target to go after, right? Why? Because you're following trend here and you're following this break of structure here, right? So I'm just trying to be reactive to how our structure plays out here and essentially pretty much play based off of that. But for the most part, because that POI that we talked about this morning, right, let me pull it up. Wait, you guys can't see my screen, right? You guys can't see the Discord. Hold on one second. Okay, pretty sure now you can see it. Cool. So we were talking about this morning. Was it this morning? Or was it yesterday? Right here. Right. So I was pretty much reading order flow here, and this is the only point of interest that pretty much made sense to me. As you start diving in here, right, 15-second time frame. Right, I believe this was like an M2, M3 candle, right? But then here you have the 15-second inefficiency fill, right? And beyond that, right, everything else to me was mitigated. So this is the last point of, not only point of interest, but essentially a point of invalidation for this entire bullish move. And what happened? Let me switch here. I know the reaction was right here, led to a structure break, right? right? This was the reaction. POI was somewhere in this candle here. Right, led to that structure break. Right, and as I said, go to M5. I was looking at this inefficiency right here. Right, other than that, I didn't really see any candles of interest. Yeah, nothing really interested me beyond this candle here. Right, which kind of lines up with the M5 inefficiency, not really. But when we're looking at structure here, right, for this continuation to occur, we've broken structure, right? We've now came into that point of interest. We've reacted, right? If you would have taken a position here, you would have been break even, right? But we had that unwillingness show. Had the unwillingness show, then a bearish break of structure, right? Which would have pretty much broken even your entire position. And then broke that pretty much M2, M3 wick. I believe it was M3. Right, this wick here. Final wick that led to this break of structure on this time frame. Right, why do I say that? One, it's in a discount. Two, as you can see, this is the final candle here that then led to an engulfing, and this could have easily been that mitigation to the upside. So once this broke, the entire bias, in my opinion, is just straight up invalidated, right? And the real play probably could have been this wick, and it could have been even in this 50% of this candle, right? Why? Even if you use this candle here, all right, wick, candle took previous wick, mitigated, and continuation. Why? Because our structure was still bearish in the overall scheme, right? And even though we had valid reasons to believe in this bullish break of structure, right, there wasn't really any type of follow through. So beyond that follow through has led me to essentially give up on this entire bias. Even though we have came back into potentially a 50% here, that is an extremely deep retracement. So it's going to take a lot of effort for this to even challenge those highs. So the only realistic way to see these highs be challenged, right, is if we give this pullback, right, essentially induce sellers, give an unwillingness, then give a break of structure and continuations to break that. That's the only reasonable way that I'm going to believe in this, quote unquote, to essentially discredit or invalidate this intraday bearish movement. So other than that, right, this is extremely messy. It still looks bearish, right? But because DXY could potentially reverse on us, then we can easily find catalyst to, look for that bullish bias, right? Because we can very well see a potential unwillingness if we break structure, right? And this actually lines up. No, it doesn't. It doesn't line up with this inefficiency fill, but oh well. Right, even though we didn't line up here, right, we gave a break of structure. That inefficiency fill, bullish order flow in play. Right, so you need to see this start to break. But I don't want to see this as a schematic. This is 100% not a schematic to me. Why? I see no climactic action, right? But I do see strong demand, strong supply, right, while we see this. So who's to say we don't just come into this potential candle of interest there, right, and start to give bearish movement. So it's very 50-50. One, it looks bearish, but I don't want to sell. And you still need certain catalysts to imply a bullish bias. So you just got to know when it's in your hands. But yeah, that pretty much does it with that. I believe this is, yeah, going back to EG. This has probably been the cleanest one since the break. Pretty much just going from the essential liquidity grab here, or even left out equal lows. Depends on the time frame, depends on the broker. As you can see, we now have an unwillingness, right, which then led to this break of structure here, right? But before that, let's actually look at our daily. Okay, so I do believe we're seeing, you know, something like, I will reference this example forever, and I don't even know how I still remember this example. I just gotta find it. It's somewhere right here. Let me look at 2 hour. We could very well see this come into play. Something like this, a failed, pretty much a bullish pattern. We can very well see that on our daily here. And we have evidence to support that claim, right? One, we have a massive amount of liquidity sitting here, right? For one. Two, even if, right, I'll go to another chart for this, right? Even if, right, we're trying to imply momentum to the upside here and just corrective structure to then continue higher, you have to acknowledge highs, right? Although here we have a higher high, but now we have a higher low. I mean lower high, I'm sorry. Lower high, right? So this is unwillingness on this time frame. Now we can start referencing time frames below that, right? So this is what we said was our daily unwillingness point if we can take these lows, right? But in order for that to happen, you have to, in order for this unwillingness to complete on a daily time frame, you have to see bearish delivery on your swing, I mean not on your swing, on your major intraday, your minor intraday, your scalps, and your microstructures, right? So immediately after this unwillingness, we gave a pretty much 99.99999% retracement, and then led to an unwillingness, to a break of structure, to a lower high, to a break of structure, to a lower high, to a break of structure, right? So that was originally derived from this, which is why my bias never changed, right? Although in the grand scheme of things, the only way to invalidate my entire bias is if this breaks, right? And for a second, I thought we were going to actually see that until, right, we even look at our range here, right? As we continue this higher, right, we talked about this, right? Our turbulence point here, notice that broke and gave another continuation lower, right? So now this, I see this as a massive break of structure, corrective move, and then that's the delivery that came to attempt to get these lows. So unfortunately, we didn't get those lows, right? Gave an immediate reaction, right, up here, even came back into this wick there, right? But remember, there's no demand present. Well, there is demand present, but right, no true effort supporting this move. Okay, so that is already a pretty much a red flag for me, right? And the same thing that we saw, we saw here, we saw it here, right, where we gave that break of the turbulence point, gave a corrective move, and then the full-on break of structure, right? So from there, all it's been is just continuation on continuation on continuation. So, right, as we're coming here, right, notice no structural low has been broken. So bullish structure still intact, I'm sorry. From there, right, we have our unwillingness here, led to a break of structure, right? Pullback, continuation, pullback, massive continuation, overextended, right? And the reason why I'm noting this point here is because this is pretty much our last set of strong momentum besides here, but I don't consider this to be any type of pullback, so I just see this to be as one full leg. Why don't I see this to be as any type of pullback? Because you can even see the structure there, right? Never broke, right? Even here, never broke. So all of these are just continuations of one big leg. So the invalidation of the bearish bias, which I don't see happening, right, is here. All right, I don't want to consider this here because I'm focusing on the full leg, right? So I'll gladly see this as potential liquidity, right, to induce buying movement, just to then, wherever this wants to react from, give that full continuation, right? So although this entire leg is bearish, we do need bullish movement to essentially begin and complete this pullback. So from here, all I want is any sign of weakness to give me lower. Why? Because it's now supporting my intraday, my minor intraday, which is supporting my major intraday, which is supporting my swing, which is supporting every single time frame that we just discussed. Because our target is still down here. And there's a ton of movement, right? I mean, a ton of potential moves here. Why? Right, because we're still seeing this in the grand scheme to be a schematic, right? Primary supply, buying climax, secondary test, up thrust, UTAD, right? Still no full SOW too, right? So we now have a bias for the next couple years, right? So even though we're still here, right, and we're struggling, and I see this as more of a conversion, a last, resort of conversion from, right, your buys to sells, your demand to supply, right? We still have a ton of room to the downside, right? So notice everything is derived from your higher time frames. Everything pretty much is connected together in a logical perspective, and it makes sense. Well, it makes sense to me, right? And that's what matters to me. So in theory, it makes no sense for this to not, give me more bearish movement, right? Unless we have a catalyst, which is what we talked about, right? Our point of invalidation here. So unless that's taken out, I'm still looking for bearish sells, okay? But other than that, I mean, that's all I got for today. Does anybody have any questions? Let's see. It's kind of similar to the left one. I think you're talking about something else. What about it? Hold on. Where are my... Okay. Yeah, go for it. Do you want me to delete these drawings? Alright, cool. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of also why I'm not, too married to that continuation of these blue squares, which is the bullish bias. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Fractal in nature. I see what you're saying. It looks very similar, yeah. It does. The components are still there, right? The initial preliminary supply, kind of, right? Like you're saying here, right? The manipulation, quote unquote UTAD, UT. And then, right, momentum, right? Even though this only broke structure levels up here, this broke more structure levels up here, which was the turbulence point here. All right, and then we gave the unwillingness, right? So like I said, we need that break of structure, which would be here, right? And then ideally you want this, your conservative entry. And usually it gives the biggest result, if you've noticed. But yeah, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. It's good to see you finally have an eye for it, though. It means you've been listening. Always, it doesn't say much. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. End of the day, you're worried about your journey. just like everybody is of theirs. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really. What's up with Surge's 20-page report? I don't know. Ask him. I asked him for an outline because he's making the psychology videos, and this dude sent me a 20-page report. So that's, I don't know. But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any questions? Anybody? Pretty sure everybody in here is decently experienced. I've been in the group for a while. Majority. Cool. Do we have any new guys in here? Yeah, I think we have 1, 2. Yeah, for the most part, same names, but I see a couple new names in here. Cool, so no questions? Nobody? You're good, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Next call. Now, honestly, for the most part, if you've been like in the calls consistently, right, you shouldn't have many questions until the new material is out. But yeah, other than that too, today I realized something. I was at the gym, and you know how we pretty much the first one to say it in the group was I believe it was Ricardo, and he said that you can have the same information over 6 months, but you'll know different things over time, right? Which comes through progression through the form of experience and time. I noticed that too. Like I was doing, what are those called? What are they called? Oblique. Hold on. I have the name. It's well, I was working on my obliques. All right, same exercise I've done every single week for the past like 4 or 5 months, right? And although I've been doing it the same way for so long, today I realized like, yo, let me focus on my form a little bit more. Let me do something different. And nothing really changed. All I did was pretty much go a little bit further, but I noticed such a big result when I'm not really doing anything different. So that's crazy to me that I feel like now I've been doing the wrong thing for 3 months, but I'm just happy that I've now realized it. And I mean, it's the same principle with trading, same principle with learning anything, same principle with honestly anything. You're learning anything. That even though I've been doing the same thing, the same routine over a very long time, not even a very long time, just a medium term time, I still see different results. I still see ways to essentially improve, right? And it's the same principle here, right? You've been, a lot of you, everybody in this group has been exposed to the same amount of information, but your progression has always gotten better over time because of experience and all that stuff. But I'm pretty sure you guys know that, but I just wanted to reiterate that concept, that idea. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. Cool, so I'll see you guys Saturday morning.